Luki, what has your life on Hi-Fi?
Mentorship has my life on Hi-Fi.
You're listening to Life on Hi-Fi, the podcast, and I'm your host, Dominic Justina. I'm a 20-something who was very self-conscious and insecure, but I've decided that I am never going back.
It really doesn't matter if I create a masterpiece or not. It doesn't matter who likes it. As long as I'm enjoying the process, that's all that matters.
Follow me as we talk about relationships, love, purpose, passion, you name it.
Focusing on what you have versus what you don't have can be a huge game changer.
Let's commit to living our best lives together, shall we? Now, my dad is a musician and my mom is an entrepreneur. So to me, career paths have always been about creating. Life has been about creating. I'm not restricting this to art. I mean, creating opportunities, creating your own title, creating your own success, creating and building those relationships. Part of being a creator is generating success. And I mean generating success on your terms. So today I sit with millennial career coach and author Luki Danukarjanto. Now, Luki faced a quarter career crisis and decided to drop his industry job to follow what he loves, which is coaching and mentoring. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely ready to take some notes. So without further ado, let's dive in.
If you're ever in Indonesia and need a resourceful worker, then you can ask for a Danukarjanto.
Please explain to listeners who you are.
So I am Luki Danukarjanto. The Indonesian is where I'm from. Most people are curious about the last name, and kind of the fun fact about me is that when my dad was born, his last name was Tan. So for those who are familiar with Chinese last names, I'm actually a Chan. And he decided to be creative and change it to Danukarjanto.
So, you know what I found interesting is that when we first met, I had approached you and I wanted to talk about the fear of failure. And you had said, but why just failure? Because there's also the fear of success, or just fear in general. And I was thinking about the fear of success, actually. And I think it's less talked about and it's harder to detect.
I think so. I think there's a growing need. And again, this is just anecdotal. I don't have any scientific research that backs me up. But there are a lot of folks where, as you dig into it, they realize, and I have a firm belief that everyone has amazing potential inside them, right? And oftentimes they're almost afraid to let that out because they are comfortable in their life. They're doing well. They have good friends. They have good family. And they have all this kind of luxury around them. And it might not be very wealthy luxury, but they have everything they need. And if they actually unleash kind of that potential and the magnificence are in them, then that might change all of it. And they would be kind of catapulted into this area where they might not feel that they're ready for, what if I am in the spotlight? What if I'm not ready for it? And then it turns into that kind of imposter syndrome type of thing where it has a different sort of connotation of failure where you almost want to sabotage yourself so that you can kind of keep to that comfort level that you've had and not let the other people down. Because the challenge is when you become successful and the other people around you aren't necessarily as successful, then sometimes there's a bit of resentment there where, well, I was kind of in the same place as you. Why aren't I just as successful? So for me, what I try to do is elevate people and bring them along for the ride and for the journey. Because, and let's work on it together and let's figure out how we can get to where you want to be. And not everyone's vision of success is the same thing. And that's one of the challenge where if you try to define success, what is it? Is it a title? Is it a job? Is it a this and that? And depending on how you view it and your view of it will change over time, will color that. So the stereotypical one of you're a celebrity with millions, billions of dollars type of thing might not be the right definition of success for you. But
now everybody wants to be famous. So.
I don't know about that.
Really? famous versus being successful. So with all the attention of being watched by paparazzi and just the public and not having the freedom to do what you want without other people knowing about it, I feel like that is kind of intimidating to some people.
Yeah, everyone has their own definition of success. And yeah, you have to realize that it doesn't have to be that you're on the cover of a magazine or have a street named after you or a statue or whatever, that sort of thing. It doesn't have to go to that level. But if someone comes back to you after a long life and said, hey, you really impacted me and made a difference in my life, that to me is success, right? So I'm just trying to figure out how to do that for as many people as I can. So
I think that if we all developed a mindset, a similar mindset to the one you have adapted, which is to help others and to uplift others as we kind of move into a space of becoming the best versions of ourselves together, then that would be amazing. Instead of seeing it as competition.
And I think for me, I mean, just to clarify, I'm by no means judging anybody, right? But again, because success is based on particular perspective, I think everyone is successful, right? They're doing the best they can with the resources they have and based on the decisions that they've made, right? And it's really up to them to say, hey, I want to make different decisions and make different choices to do different things with my life. So what I try to do is provide people with options and saying, hey, why don't you try this? And why couldn't you do this? Because a lot of people are on what I call cruise control for their life. The typical expectation is you go to school, go to university, graduate, get a job, get married, have kids, have a 2-car garage in the suburbs, white picket fence and a dog type of thing, and everything is good. Well, that's cool. That works. And as long as you're happy and as long as that's what you want, I'm more worried about the people who are thinking about what if I could be doing this, or I know that I could be doing that, and really opening up to the possibilities that, hey, why don't you? And sort of work. So, yeah, I mean, all of that is very interesting conversation. And what I would want to do is encourage people to think more about, are they doing things because they want to be doing it, or are they doing things because it's the expectation for them to be doing that sort of stuff?
And when you said that, I was raising my hand because, like, I'm definitely one of those people. The cycle, it just scares me. The expectations that are already out there, they kind of scare me because I feel that my path doesn't necessarily align with that. And, you know, it's like kind of scary stepping off that pathway and deciding to do something that you truly enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a challenge because, I mean, society has evolved for a bunch of years where that's kind of the expectation. But if you actually think about it like evolutionarily, like it's very recent that people are wanting to, like, even the inventions of university is only a couple hundred years old at most, and the popularity of it's probably in the 40s or 50s type of thing, right? So all this notion is a very modern type of thing. Whereas, I mean, back in the medieval times, people just wanted to farm, make sure that the crop was bountiful, and then continue on with their life and find kind of the nice little luxuries in life that they could be happy, right? But in 2018, with like the internet and all this technology and everything, there's so many more options.
Yeah, and I would say that this is a sweet spot for people who don't feel like the status quo is for them in terms of their career. Because there's so much room for us to experiment, and especially with social media and the online platform, even with this podcast, there are ways to earn without following the way that everybody has been doing it for years before us. So I feel like it's a really interesting time.
Yeah, it's definitely one where you have options. So would you rather be making $80,000 as an accountant, or be making $50,000 as a podcaster?
And you know, my friend and I have said it before. We're just like, if we don't try, how will we ever know?
And that's one thing that definitely helped me in my decision. Like, I'm significantly older, but I at that point had was married and was having kids. But my kind of revelation is that at this point, I said to myself that I will never have any more energy than I do now because you kind of hit 25 and it kind of goes downhill from
Oh,
there.
jeez.
And then I also said that right now I will never have any less responsibility. Like I said, I was having a second kid was going to come. They're all going to go to college. I'm going to have to pay for that and blah 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 blah. Right. So when you're young, take some time to do things that you would want to make sure that you don't regret not doing later. Right. So to your point, I think that's the spot on where you can always plug back into the machine later on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's tons of opportunity out there. The pain of doing weighs ounces, and the pain of regret weighs tons. And I've adopted that quote probably to one extreme where I said, where I say to myself, like, I have honestly never failed in my life. And then I follow on with I have just learned a lot. So just taking it as a perspective of it's not failure, it's just learning.
Yes.
I did a lot of soul searching, self-reflecting, and speaking to mentors. And what I found that I was good at was coaching and mentoring others. And I was a good consultant because I, quote unquote, coached my clients, right? And I found there was a need when I would be at info sessions at universities. I would be speaking to folks and I would ask them, well, why do you want to be a consultant? And they would say, oh, I want to be a consultant because of blah, 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 blah. And then I'd kind of pause them and say, hold on. Why do you really want to be a consultant? And
then, that's the question, right?
Yeah. And then their breath kind of softens and they kind of relax and they go, because I couldn't be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer type of thing. And a consultant seemed like the next best thing. And my dad was one or my brother was one or something like that. I would ask them the follow-on question, well, what do you actually want to be? And they would say like a chef or an artist or something that wasn't kind of the typical career path for millennials, the acceptable ones.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks where if they only knew the opportunities and the choices out there, then they would probably lead to have a better life. So back to today, and I'm now a lecturer at Centennial. I do stuff with most of the universities and college across the GTA. I wrote a book, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, which is basically chronicles all the stuff I wish I knew earlier when I was in school. And I'm going to build an app for that to basically create a Luki bot or a mentor bot, kind of a Luki in your pocket type of thing, which I'm hoping is going to transform kind of education in all honesty and make it a little bit more of a focus on soft skills. Because growing up, I was the total opposite, being a computer scientist and all. I didn't understand the value of it, but now that I know.
And when you say soft skills, could you explain what you mean?
Soft skills are more like communication, time management, emotional intelligence, and empathy. Kind of the softer people part of it of yourself.
Okay.
So things that haven't yet found a good test for you to do it or a good approach, but actually science has been evolving pretty well where there are actually more and more studies and proven studies on certain approaches to make different types of soft skills. Something like charisma, being charismatic.
Yeah.
They've actually broken it down to, I think, 7 different components. And you can actually teach someone to be more charismatic. And isn't that amazing?
So I guess long and short of it, it's kind of like what we say when we have on our resume, interpersonal skills. Okay.
That's a big component of it for sure.
Yeah.
And again, it's a lot of the stuff that's the most important parts of being successful in your career, but it's not necessarily weighted as heavily or necessarily taught in schools, right? And most of the successful people, they figure it out one way or another, and they end up finding other people to do kind of the hard skills. So.
Yeah, and then one of the other things that I wish school taught us more about money management, but we'll get to that at the end. I'm just so excited to dive in. But listening to your story again, I just wanted to go back a bit. So I know that you almost fill out your co-op program in your first year, but then
Thanks. Add up, yeah.
But then you ended up graduating and getting a job straight out of university as a coder. So can you talk me through your university experience and some hurdles you faced and how you overcame them?
Yeah, so a lot of this is do as I say, not what I did, because I actually didn't have a very good, well, in my opinion, university experience.
My conversation with Luki takes a dive into his book titled The Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, a tell-all manual of the things that he wished he knew when he was in school. Tune in for some more gems in part 2. And remember, if you're enjoying this so far, please subscribe to Life on Hi-Fi on iTunes. Also, if you find it worth leaving a review or rating the podcast, I'd really appreciate it. Keep up with Life on Hi-Fi on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Life on Hi-Fi. Stay Gucci, stay fly, and keep creating.